Wow, what an episode. This, of the three that have come out, this is by far my favorite. Pop Tot, what did you think of the episode 17 Seconds?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It was a great episode.
And I, too, was obviously right.
Fun fact about this episode, this marks the 150th time Star Trek writers have used a nebula or a celestial body to hide a ship from the enemies. Yes. So fun fact there. But no, it was a really good episode because it gave time to basically find out more about Jack. It really kind of set in the tone of really what the overall conspiracy is. Shaw, of course, starts it out. They're fighting the Shrek. Shrek's shooting at him, busting him up. They lose rear visibility, and Shaw's like, "Send somebody down to the stern and look out the damn window."
Send somebody down to look out the goddamn back window.
You know, that's just funny shit when you think about it.
Send somebody down to look out the goddamn back window.
The 17 seconds refers to in the flashback scene between Picard and Riker. Picard buying Riker a drink. Riker just had his son.
I have no doubt your son is in capable hands.
Riker's explaining that they found out there was an issue when Deanna gave birth, and the 17 seconds from the bridge to the sickbay was the longest 17 seconds of his life. And then that happens later on in the episode between Picard when Jack gets hurt,
right,
as he encounters this season's bad guy, as
changelings.
A changeling, you know, and Raffi and Worf, they encounter this. They have to go pick up this underworld guy, and they think he's going through withdrawal, and turns out he's a changeling. He hasn't been able to resort to his gelatinous state. So there's changelings.
There's a changeling on board.
Worf is basically explains later on in the episode that this isn't exactly the Dominion coming back, but rather when the Dominion surrendered, a offshoot of the changelings created a rogue terror cell.
There was a schism. A terrorist faction broke away, unwilling to accept defeat.
And this information was given to him by a trusted, honored friend, which, as we know, is Odo.
I was contacted by a close friend within the link.
There was great shout-outs. There was some great dialogue in here, and I think the best acting of all three seasons was a scene between Picard and Crusher. Yep. When she's explaining what happened, you know, how Jack became about, and Picard, or Patrick Stewart, just gave his best. I mean, angry Picard is an amazing Picard. He was just really upset by it.
How dare you take my confiding in you about my father?
And after that dialogue between them, he leaves a defeated man because he really realizes that, you know, Jack ultimately chose not to be a part of his life.
Yep. Yeah, I think this episode is just freaking loaded. I had no idea how to even attack talking about this episode because we got changelings. We get to see Worf, and I mean, we saw him last episode, but we actually get to see him. He's hilarious. Michael Dorn has the perfect comedic timing that is unlike anything else.
Right.
Beheadings are on Wednesdays.
We get tons of space battles.
When they were interrogating the underworld guy, and Raffi says that the Klingons know how to put a knife right up there, and he goes, "We don't do that. I don't do that anymore." It was really hilarious.
Yeah. Klingon warrior can shove a sword up
I do not do that anymore.
Humans I'm doing what humans call working on myself.
So I have been, as humans say, working on myself.
His deadpan humor is amazing. We get some great action. Shaw with the great, somebody look out the goddamn back window, and it's
that
just
was hilarious.
Awesome.
And then of course, Shaw gets hurt in the ensuing battle with the Shrike, and he hands over command to Riker. And then Riker suddenly forgets he's there to help out Picard and becomes captain of 500 people. And him and Picard's relationship ultimately changes here because.
So this is an interesting thing and I'm glad you talked about that because I watched it, and I'll admit by the end of the episode, I'm like, I do not like what just happened. Riker becomes captain via Shaw getting hurt. Shaw, almost in a dickish way, is like, "It's your fault. You're captain now."
You got us into this. You are gonna get us out.
And Riker's like, "Oh shit!" But then Riker becomes, "I'm not Riker, your friend. I am Riker in charge of 500 souls."
Right. Exactly.
And his demeanor completely changes to the point where I'm like, is this really Riker? What's going on with Riker that he gets so aggressive?
You know what it reminded me of It reminded me of All Good Things Riker.
I figured you wouldn't take no for an answer.
To make us weak.
Sit down, Admiral.
Well, how many times must your strategy fail before you change it? It's not working.
Sit down, Admiral.
When he was going to Will for help and Riker was talking down to him, he was on board the Enterprise D, and the way he talked down to Picard, it was that same way. It was like, oh wow, this is what Riker does when he's in command.
I know what's causing the anomaly. We have to go back.
The only place we're going back to, sir, is bed.
There's a moment where Riker is still kind of reeling. They're going through all this combat. The Shrike has all these different cool abilities we've never seen before.
That's really
neat.
Thing.
The portal gun is so cool.
That's so cool.
He's reeling, and Picard just goes and drives the dagger into him and says, hey, we know you lost your son, but yeah. And Riker,
fearful of loss,
stops saying Jean-Luc and says Admiral.
Sit down, Admiral.
He keeps basically addressing him down. And I got upset because I was like, I don't know if this is Riker. But then I was like, no, it is. He's no longer in charge of this mission for one guy. He's in charge of 500 other people. Right. It's a lot going on.
So ultimately, they're trying to get out of this nebula, or what they thought was a nebula, but now it's looking more like an anomaly. And we all know where this is heading, those of us who've watched Star Trek. And they shoot everything they've got at the Shrike because they ended up behind it. And the Shrike uses a portal gun to redirect all that stuff, and it hits the back of the Titan.
Badass. Yeah.
And it just completely destroys the back end of the Titan and leaves it adrift. That's when Riker just explodes and basically looks at Picard and says, you've killed us all, and get off my bridge.
remove yourself from the bridge.
But overall, I really liked all the things in this episode. And there's been a lot of, is this about the conspiracy TNG episode? What did you think about the bad guys being the changelings? We were watching this episode together, my second time, your first time, and you almost guessed it pretty quickly. Like, oh, it's the changelings before it even happened. Do you like that the changelings are back?
Yes, I do. I liked because they were such a formidable foe, and the only reason the Federation beat them before is because somebody came up with, using Odo, they came up with a way to basically disease them, and they crippled them, and now it looks like they're back, but it's not really all of them. I don't know. The only thing that I'm a little off is the trailers kind of made it look like it was Picard's rogue gallery that was coming after him. And it doesn't feel like that any after episode 3. That was more like a redirect. But only thing I've got a weird thing about is at one point Jack figures out there's a saboteur on board. He's trying to fix what the saboteur did. That's when we find out that it's a changeling. The changeling knocks him out. And then when Jack comes to, he's suddenly in the Upside Down. Like, there's red vines all over the place. There's a red door. There's somebody talking to him. And you and I discussed this. It felt very paw race. Yep. And we don't know that for sure. We don't know. We're telling you that right now. We're not giving that up.
After watching 6 episodes, we still have no freaking idea what it is. And you'll be teased the rest of the season.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but there was like this very paw race feeling to it, and it still kind of boggles my mind. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know what that's going on, but
I did like, and very subtle as it should be, that the writing around the changelings was really clever, and the aspect that, why doesn't Starfleet say what it is? Well, by acknowledging the changelings being back would restart the Dominion War.
If Starfleet were to acknowledge their existence,
we would be reigniting the Dominion War.
And that is very, very New Age politics. That is 100% New Age politics. Is, hey, we're over there. Is this a war? No. Is there troops over there? Well, kinda. Yeah, and it's
by proxy.
They by proxy. And Worf says it. The whole crew kind of goes through it. And I really like that. I really like some of the advancements, which, DS9 was 25 years ago now. They've had some advancements with the technology and how the changelings are. I think that's really cool. There's so many, and I talked about this in my review, there's so many great character-to-character moments. The Crusher and Picard scene is so good. Yep. And we get a line that is so firmly Picard. and she's like, you ended our relationship. And he's like, our romantic relationship, lady.
Right.
Like, we're friends, but I just didn't, we're not humping anymore.
We ended our relationship.
Our romantic relationship.
It felt very Picard to me.
There's a charming scene between Riker and Jack, who are
So
sitting on the
good.
hallway while
It's
Crusher
so
and
good.
Picard are going at it. And that was a really good moment. And then there's this really cool moment, although brief, between Ensign LaForge
Yep.
and Seven.
Yep.
And she's just basically checking on Seven, who's confined to quarters. And as she's walking away, she calls her Commander Seven.
Yes, Commander Seven.
Yeah.
And it's acknowledgement that she knows who she is. She knows where she's coming from.
She sees her. And again, like I said, you could find so many great moments. Jack with Riker in the hallway, and Riker, Jonathan Frakes, is just smitten with this shit-eating grin. He's like, there's no denying it now. And Jack's kind of like, every time I meet a legend, they're just not who they claim to be. And Riker's like, listen, man, this is Jean-Luc Picard. He's human, but he is a legend. And I really enjoy that. Again, seeing things in hindsight, which helps to watch things multiple times, comes back when you watch it to see Riker when he goes after Picard and he's pissed. Mm-hmm. I think that's when you start seeing, hey, Picard did make a mistake and I did too. There's so much good stuff in this episode. This could be
it really is
2-hour long review if we wanted it to be.
Slayer of Gowron. I have made some chamomile tea. Do you take sugar?
So what is your favorite moment, favorite scene of the episode?
Like I said, between Picard and Crusher, yep. And when she said something about how his father was for him, and he loses his shit, and ultimate Patrick Stewart style Shakespearean screams at her and says, "How dare you use what I said to you in confidence about my father against me?" And it was like, it made like the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
How dare you take my confiding in you about my father?
Gates McFadden said that this is the best Beverly Crusher has ever been. And I thought maybe that was just a talking piece, but no, this not only is the writing good, her acting is phenomenal.
Jean-Luc, when the galaxy comes calling for you, you are not put upon by it. You love it.
She didn't want to have her son go through what Picard went through, and she listed like a lot of things that had happened right when she found out she was pregnant.
Some Easter eggs and all that.
Yeah, some Easter eggs, and
2 Reman assassins intercepted the ship in the Denatra sector.
And that she didn't want her child, the son of Picard, to have to go through all this stuff,
which was cool and understandable. And Picard felt hurt. I thought that was understandable. And anytime you can write a scene that dramatic and say, well, I understand but I also understand what you're saying, I think it's really great.
He decided not to.
If this season continues to do well, and I don't know that CBS, Paramount has ever released numbers, I really honestly believe there should be a Titan spinoff, and I believe Terry Matalas should be 100% running the show.
Absolutely agreed.
I want to see more. I think there's so much done right. And again, you and I talked about this. We were never going to get old Trek. The overly lit sets, episodic storytelling, the sometimes on the nose, sometimes not, clever sci-fi writing. There was always going to be a mix of new age storytelling with old age. And you basically see that with Deep Space Nine. And when they went back to episodic with Enterprise, it didn't work.
Well, and Strange New Worlds does it. I mean, there's a subplot in the background, but they decided to go back to the Freak of the Week kind of stuff.
Right.
I really like where Star Trek is starting to head now. It's like it got off on a rusty nail, and it's really kind of going flat, but now it's starting to get some speed.
What would your final review score be for this episode?
I would give it an A.
I would as well.
Totally, just really enjoyed this episode. In fact, as you and I know, we watch these episodes together, and then we review them before we do this video. But I actually didn't skim through it. I ended up watching the entire thing because it was so good.
I think episodes 3, 4, and 5 are the best since probably, and I might be reaching here, before Enterprise. Like this This is what it should have been from the get-go.
Agreed.
And this episode ends very somber. The Titan's crashing down into this anomaly, and it sucks, but there's a lot of other good shit that comes that you're like, thank God, this is what it should have been. I love what this episode brought, and I love what's to come. I can't wait for more, and we're so thankful to share it with you guys. As usual, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, Tots.
Bye, guys.